Welcome into another edition of Oakland Overtime. Alongside Ali Hadi this week, I'm Jason Ross Jr. We are entering the final week of summer, which means we're waving goodbye to the good summer weather, but saying hello to a new fall season here on campus.
But it's an extra special season, Jason, especially since we didn't have a fall season back in 2020, if you recall. But the fall also welcomes back Horizon League Conference play. So we will talk about that throughout this episode for multiple sports, as well as some student-athlete feature stories, some coach interviews, and so much more.
Should be a fun one. As always, this week's show is brought to you by Great Clips, the United Dairy Industry of Michigan, and Meyer. Here we go with another episode of Oakland Overtime. After a tough non-conference slate, OU women's soccer kicked off Horizon League play a week ago with matchups against Youngstown State and Green Bay.
The Golden Grizzlies actually tied with Youngstown State down in Ohio, but came back home for the conference home opener against Green Bay with a spotless 6-0 victory.
Those 6 goals were a season high for OU women's soccer. 3 of them came off the foot of forward Alexis Seba, who recorded her first career hat trick in that win. OU's leading goal scorer from a season ago is really beginning to find her groove of late.
And that groove is honestly working so much magic for her because Seba has already met her goal total from 2020. And the word resiliency was actually used by Juan Pa to just describe the start of this season so far. He also mentioned that this 6-goal victory really shows as a testament to how hard that his team is working.
It had been 7 consecutive games without a victory for OU women's soccer. That streak is snapped, and we're hoping this momentum continues to build down the final stretch of September. With fall sports on the horizon, OU women's basketball is already gearing up for their winter season, which is giving me chills for multiple reasons.
Okay.
One, because of how cold it's going to be when that actually happens, and number 2, because basketball season will be here before we know it.
We all know how much you love basketball, Jason. But as far as physically chilling, I can definitely agree because we're going from this bittersweet goodbye from summer to fall. Though I do love the season. And we can actually see just how amazing it is because it's super exciting what we have going on. Here's a sneak peek at the women's basketball offseason practice.
Ali, you mentioned the excitement. There's also plenty of expectation on the shoulders of OU women's basketball in 2021-22 after the successful season under Jeff Tungate that preceded this upcoming year. And clearly they know that success in March starts right now.
Absolutely, Jason, which leads us into this week's social post of the week, which is brought to you by Great Clips.
The Horizon League basketball schedules have officially been released. You can see here OU women's basketball will play their first 4 conference games at home in front of fans.
It's so fun to think about the return of fans to basketball games at the arena, Jason. Here's the men conference's schedule. The man featured on the calendar is forward Trey Townsend, who grew up attending games here at Oakland, and now he'll get to play in front of the OU fans for the very first time.
There are some fun matchups on the schedule. New Year's Day features a rematch of last season's Horizon League quarterfinal game with Youngstown State. Coming up next on Oakland Overtime, we'll have this week's Behind the Black and Gold feature. This week's Behind the Black and Gold segment is truly unique. Unlike in previous weeks, we interview a former student athlete turned grad assistant. Chris Handy, a native of England who played golf for OU, has a disability that most would consider to be a disadvantage. However, he's turned that disability into his superpower. Welcome to this week's Behind the Black and Gold feature alongside OU men's and women's golf grad assistant Chris Handy. I'm Jason Ross Jr. Chris, thanks for joining me today. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Well, Chris, you wrote an article on the OU website titled Finding Strength in My Weakness, which chronicled your journey with dyslexia throughout your life. If you could take me back to when you first discovered that you did have dyslexia.
It was at a really young age. I don't remember the exact year or time of day sort of thing, but I remembered being like in school, maybe when I was like 7 or 8 year old, and I was really good at math and just could not get away with like English at all, really just struggling with like reading and writing. And then talking to like teachers and my parents and stuff like that, then we did some tests and stuff like that, then found out I was dyslexic. So yeah, so I knew it from an early age, then just been dealing with it ever since, and done a lot of like tutoring and stuff like that just to make sure I am where I am now. At college, graduated last year, then get me masters this coming year as well. So
You mentioned everything that's come after that. You also talked in the article about how that disability has turned into your superpower. And you mentioned some of the fears that are attached with dyslexia at an early age, things such as being afraid to read a paragraph in class. I guess at what point did it turn from fear to superpower?
um, it was only till maybe when I was 16 or 17 when I started like specializing in subjects and stuff like that, when I was just doing a lot of math and a lot of business. Because I come to a point where I've done all this extra work on on language just to try and get me English to somewhere it's kind of usable and normal sort of thing. And yeah, once I got more comfortable in these subjects like the math and business and stuff like that, where there's not a great deal of literature or anything like that, it made it a lot more easier, and I was a lot more comfortable in classrooms and stuff like that.
You mentioned math there. In your sport, golf, a lot of usage of angles and just the mental planning that goes into that sport. How did you discover golf, and I guess what has this sport meant to your life?
I played golf since I was 2 year old, so I've always been around golf sort of thing like that. And yeah, there is a great deal of math, and that's probably why I like it so much, to be honest, because there's not a perfect answer to the golf game, pretty much. To analyzing everything, and that's why I love the game, to be honest. Just then I can help out other guys on the team right now, going through their stats and analyzing their games and seeing if there's any 1% games that we can make through there.
And when you talked in the article as well about golf and how you didn't want it to just be a game in your life, you wanted it to turn into potential academic opportunities. Not only has it turned into that for you at Oakland, but now it's turned into a job as a grad assistant with both the men's and women's teams. What has Oakland University meant to your journey?
Yeah, it's been crazy, to be honest. If you asked me, when I was a 12-year-old boy, would I go to college, I would say it would be crazy, because I didn't even think I would get through high school, to be honest. And when I've had a great journey through Oakland, had a lot of great teammates, guiding us the right way, with classes and stuff like that, and feel like I achieved pretty good grades throughout the 5 years that I've been here, and yeah, it's really been a good experience. Really enjoyed it.
Thanks, Chris. It's been a wonderful experience joining you today on our Behind the Black and Gold feature. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Earlier in the show, I actually mentioned that Juan Pa had used the word resiliency, and I honestly feel like that is an understatement when we talk about Chris Handy's journey and just how admirable he is.
I couldn't agree more, and that men's golf team that Chris Handy now helps coach tied for fourth this past weekend at the Earl Yestingsmeyer. This week will be more about simply having fun when former players like Chris Handy return for the Elliott Cup alumni match here on campus. OU men's soccer's 2-0 victory over Purdue Fort Wayne back on September 11th began Horizon League play for the Golden Grizzlies. There were a couple of non-conference fixtures after that, but Ali, the conference play really gets rolling this weekend.
You're absolutely right, Jason. In fact, you guys could join us here at OU Saturday, September 25th for the first and only matchup against the University of Illinois Chicago this season.
Yeah, going into conference play here, you know, really the heart of it. We got the first game out of the way and had a great 2-0 shutout victory against Fort Wayne. But coming up here on Saturday against UIC, you know, will be a stiff challenge for us. And then, you know, we'll have 3 league games in 7 days starting on Saturday. So we'll really find out where we're at the end of that. So this week we're just using to kind of rest, recover from the last week, you know, analyze, you know, the past games and really, you know, get a chance to prepare ourselves for a tough test against UIC. We always have great games with them, and we know a lot of times the conference, you know, will go through one of our teams. Yeah, I think when you're picked to win the conference, it's obviously a, you know, it's nice, but it's really a reflection of what your team's done in the past. There is some added pressure that comes along with it. I say a lot of time, you know, because everyone's going to give you their best game and want to prove that you're not the best team in the conference. We got a lot of great teams. There's no easy games in the Horizon League, and I think, you know, a lot of times I wish we were picked to win, you know, like come in like 4th, 5th, or 6th or something like that, and then we can use it as a little bit of a, you know, chip on our shoulder, and we're about here to prove you wrong. It's a little bit different sometimes coming from, you know, being the favorites, and, you know, everyone had those expectations. But, you know, pressure is a privilege, you know. So I think, you know, we have to embrace that and, you know, realize we're going to get everybody's best game, and you know, UIC is going to be no different. Yeah, I mean, we played a really tough schedule. You know, what we learned is that we can compete with any team in the country on any given day, you know, but the difference between, you know, us sometimes and the opponent, you know, can be really small things, but finishing your chances and, you know, being able to manage the game and see games out the right way. But, you know, the goal is to get to the NCAA tournament. In order to do that, you got to win the conference. In order to do that, you got to win the conference tournament. So, you know, one step at a time, but we learned if we get to the NCAA tournament, we'll be a tough team, and I don't think there'll be a lot of teams that want to play us come that time. So, you know, we still got a lot of tough non-conference games coming up, you know, Western Michigan, Louisville, you know, teams like that. That'll be difficult tests for us, but, you know, I think it's kind of across the board here at Oakland. You see we play tough teams, you know, and kids that come here want to play the best teams possible. So, you know, I don't think that's ever going to change, and I think it prepares us for, you know, the stiff tests that come in the Horizon League.
Jason, we've already talked about the winter prep for the sports in this show, but we haven't really looked at spring, and it's never too early to do that. So here's this week's Mic'd Up, featuring Oakland Baseball, brought to you by Meyer.
Hey, I'll just be in the mic while I'm bad, just just breathing. Oh Lord.
They got you hot. They got you hot, huh?
I know.
Sheesh.
It's bad. They picked the worst person for this job, but I don't think I'm gonna bat, bro. If I batted mic'd up, that would be fire. Huh? Yeah, I should. Oh my God, I get the bat. Oh my God, I get the bat. Let's go. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Mic'd up. Mic'd up, baby. Oh, I did it with the mic on. That's awesome. I did it that was a perfect time to do it. Perfect time to do it, baby. Yeah, that's awesome.
Sir, yeah, baby.
Perfect time, baby. Perfect time, perfect time. Perfect timing.
Huge, baby.
Yeah! He's good!
That boy Steigs.
Really good, baby!
I wish I hit like Steigs. Good hack.
OU women's volleyball took one of two matches at the Green and White Classic a week ago before falling to Bowling Green in the third and final match of what was a pretty busy week.
You know, Jason, though, but the Golden Grizzlies actually went the distance against Central Michigan, defeating the Chips within 5 sets before actually losing to Michigan State and Bowling Green as the non-conference season came to a close.
No, Horizon League play begins on the road next week for the volleyball team. Matches against Youngstown State and Robert Morris, two teams that OU had a fair amount of success against a season ago.
Absolutely, and head coach Rob Beam actually watched his team go a combined 4-0 against the Penguins and the Colonials last season, so I definitely expect them to continue that trend this time around.
One trend that I think everyone on campus would love to see continue is the awards, the milestones that have been set so far throughout the course of the season. Last week it was Annabelle Tomei's 1,000th career assist. This week it's DS Lindsay Whiteman now standing atop the record books for most career digs in Oakland school history.
Absolutely. Whiteman's got a staggering 1,842 career digs, putting her at the top for the Lake Orion Senior.
And, it was such a fun show this week. More fun milestones, more cool stories. We had a pleasure bringing it to you. Again, alongside Ali Hadi, I'm Jason Ross Jr. We'd like to thank our sponsors, the United Dairy Industry of Michigan, Meyer, and Great Clips for making this show possible. Make sure to tune in to Oakland Overtime next week and find us on the OU social media channels, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, wherever you get your content. That is where Oakland Overtime will reside. We'll see you next week.